Imagine a scenario where the boldest move of the offseason doesn't show up in the highlights, doesn't make splashy headlines, and doesn't excite at first glance, yet completely reshapes the franchise's competitive ceiling. This is the kind of move that separates good teams from truly intelligent organizations. It's not impulse, it's cold calculation. It's chess played at an executive level. What's up, Jays Nation? You're watching Jays Nation News, and today we're going to break down a possibility that seems contradictory on the surface, but could be the trigger for something much bigger in Toronto. According to a Newsweek article published on December 22, 2025, the Toronto Blue Jays have been urged to seriously evaluate a potential trade with the Los Angeles Angels involving all-star pitcher José Berríos and outfielder Joey Loperfido, in exchange for the young reliever Ryan Johnson, just 22 years old. This starting point matters because it doesn't come out of nowhere. It emerges from a very specific context the organization has built throughout this offseason. Toronto has already made it clear they are not in wait-and-see mode by adding Dylan Cease to the rotation, a move that sends a direct message to the market. This team is willing to act aggressively to compete right now. At the same time, that aggression creates a new internal challenge: how to reorganize the payroll so these decisions don't become a bottleneck for the next move. The front office begins to view the payroll as a board that can still, and perhaps must, be reshaped. Within this framework, expectations grow that the club could be targeting major free agent names like Kyle Tucker, Bichette, or Cody Bellinger, players who don't just raise the talent level of the roster, but require real financial flexibility to make any pursuit viable. There is no high-level ambition without financial margin, and that margin is exactly what moves to the center of the conversation here. That's where José Berríos becomes a strategic asset, not because he has completely lost his on-field value, but precisely the opposite. The dilemma isn't quality, it's redundancy. Berríos still has up to 3 years left on his contract, with roughly $67 million owed. And it's true that the 2025 season was far from his best on the mound. Even so, reducing his profile to a single down year would be a shallow analysis. Over the 2 previous seasons, he ranked 18th in ERA among all qualified MLB starters, a data point that clearly places him above league average. That doesn't describe a common or easily replaceable arm. The central issue becomes fit within the new rotation hierarchy. With Dylan Cease's arrival and the presence of other established names, Berríos shifts from being an indispensable pillar to occupying a role that can be viewed as surplus within the current roster construction. When that happens, a player's market value changes function. It stops being just about performance and starts being about flexibility. And Toronto has already shown in other situations that it doesn't cling to names when the strategic context changes. The case of Yariel Rodriguez, who played a meaningful role in 2024 and 2025 before the organization moved in a different direction, stands as a clear precedent for that philosophy. The proposal starts to make even more sense once Joey Loperfido enters the equation. He isn't positioned as the centerpiece of the deal, but as the piece that makes it workable. Loperfido serves as the incentive necessary for the Angels to agree to absorb Berríos' entire contract, something that would be highly unlikely without that added value. From Los Angeles' perspective, the logic is both symbolic and pragmatic. Their rotation already includes Alek Manoah, Yusei Kikuchi, and Jordan Romano, all players with recent ties to Toronto. Adding Berríos would be another step in their attempt to regain relevance quickly, accepting financial risk in exchange for immediate stability on the mound. For the Angels, it makes sense to pay for reliable arms right now. For the Blue Jays, it makes sense to walk away from that cost if something bigger is being lined up behind the scenes. And that's exactly why, for Toronto, the real focus of this potential trade isn't just payroll relief. The core of the strategy lies in the concept of asymmetric risk. Giving up a heavy contract and a promising outfielder to acquire Ryan Johnson means accepting a controlled short-term loss in exchange for a young, inexpensive asset under team control. A 22-year-old reliever isn't just a baseball gamble. He's a structural piece. This type of player allows a bullpen to be built with depth over time, without the constant need for expensive market investments. That's pipeline in its purest form. Viewing the roster as an integrated system, where established stars at the top can only perform at their peak when there's a young, efficient, and financially sustainable foundation beneath them. Elite organizations operate exactly this way. They sacrifice immediate comfort, accept unpopular decisions, and reorganize assets today to consistently expand their competitive ceiling tomorrow. But the critical counterpoint cannot be ignored. This kind of salary dump only makes sense if execution afterward is flawless. If the Blue Jays clear this space and fail to convert it into one or two true impact stars, the move shifts from bold to questionable. There's also the inherent risk of betting on a 22-year-old reliever, one of the most volatile roles in baseball. And of course, there's always the possibility that Berrios rediscovers his best form in another market, which would inevitably reignite criticism of the decision. In the end, this potential trade isn't about winning on paper right now. It's about clearing a path. It's about showing that the Toronto Blue Jays are willing to make cold, calculated decisions to stay at the top of the race. The question left for Jays Nation is direct and technical. Would you trade the security of José Berríos today for the real possibility of landing two superstars tomorrow? Or is that kind of risk too high for a team that's already in win-now mode? I want to know what you think.